That's why my administration will consider potential areas for development in the Mid and South Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. While studying and protecting sensitive areas in the Arctic. That's why we'll continue to support development of leased areas off the north slope of Alaska. While protecting Alaska's Bristol Bay. There will be those who strongly disagree with this decision. Including those who say we should not open any new areas to drilling. But what I want to emphasize is that this announcement is part of a broader strategy that will move us from an economy that runs on fossil fuels and foreign oil to one that relies more on homegrown fuels and clean energy. And the only way this transition will succeed is if it strengthens our economy in the short term and the long run. To fail to recognize this reality would be a mistake. On the other side, there are going to be some who argue that we don't go nearly far enough. Who suggest we should open all our waters to energy exploration. Without any restriction or regard for the broader environmental and economic impact. And to those folks I've got to say this, we have less than 2% of the world's oil reserves. We consume more than 20% of the world's oil. And what that means is that drilling alone can't come close to meeting our long-term energy needs. And for the sake of our planet and our energy independence, we need to begin the transition to cleaner fuels now. So the answer is not drilling everywhere all the time. But the answer is not, also, for us to ignore the fact that we are going to need vital energy sources to maintain our economic growth and our security. Ultimately, we need to move beyond the tired debates of the left and the right, between business leaders and environmentalists. Between those who would claim drilling is a cure-all and those who would claim it has no place. Because this issue is just too important to allow our progress to. Languish while we fight the same old battles over and over again. For decades we've talked about how our dependence on foreign oil threatens our economy. Yet our will to act rises and falls with the price of a barrel of oil. When gas gets expensive at the pump, suddenly everybody is an energy expert. And when it goes back down, everybody is back to their old habits. For decades we've talked about the threat to future generations posed by our current system of energy, even as we can see the mounting evidence of climate change from the Arctic Circle to the Gulf Coast. And this is particularly relevant to all of you who are serving in uniform. For decades, we've talked about the risks to our security created by dependence on foreign oil. But that dependence has actually grown year after year after year after year. And while our politics has remained entrenched along these worn divides, the ground has shifted beneath our feet. Around the world, countries are seeking an edge in the global marketplace by investing in new ways of producing and saving energy. From China to Germany, these nations recognize that the nation that leads the clean energy economy will be the country that leads the global economy. And meanwhile, here at home, as politicians in Washington debate endlessly about whether to act. Our own military has determined that we can no longer afford not to. Some of the press may be wondering why we are announcing offshore drilling in a hangar at Andrews Air Force Base. Well, if there's any doubt about the leadership that our military is showing. You just need to look at this F-18 fighter and the light armored vehicle behind me. The Army and Marine Corps have been testing this vehicle on a mixture of biofuels. And this Navy fighter jet appropriately called the Green Hornet. Will be flown for the first time in just a few days, on Earth Day. If tests go as planned, it will be the first plane ever to fly. Faster than the speed of sound on a fuel mix that is half biomass. The Air Force is also testing jet engines using biofuels and had the first successful biofuel-powered test flight just last week. I don't want to drum up any kind of rivalry here, but now, the Pentagon isn't seeking these alternative fuels just to protect our environment. They're pursuing these homegrown energy sources to protect our national security. Our military leaders recognize the security imperative of increasing the use of alternative fuels. Decreasing energy use, reducing our reliance on imported oil, making ourselves more energy efficient. That's why the Navy, led by Secretary Mabus, who's here today, has set a goal of using 50% alternative fuels in all planes, vehicles, and ships in the next 10 years. That's why the Defense Department has invested $2.7 billion this year alone to improve energy efficiency. So moving towards clean energy is about our security. It's also about our economy. And it's about the future of our planet. And what I hope is the policies that we've laid out, from hybrid fleets to offshore drilling. From nuclear energy to wind energy underscores the seriousness with which my administration takes this challenge. It's a challenge that requires us to break out of the old ways of thinking, to think and act anew. And it requires each of us, regardless of whether we're in the private sector or the public sector. Whether we're in the military or in the civilian side of government, to think about how could we be doing things better. How could we be doing things smarter so that we are no longer tethered? To the whims of what happens somewhere in the Middle East or with other major oil-producing nations. So I'm open to proposals from my Democratic friends and my Republican friends. I think that we can break out of the broken politics of the past when it comes to our energy policy. I know that we can come together to pass comprehensive energy and climate legislation that's going to foster new energy, new industries. Create millions of new jobs, protect our planet. And help us become more energy independent. That's what we can do. That is what we must do. And I'm confident that is what we will do. So thank you very much. And thanks, again, to all of you who are serving in our armed services. You are making an enormous contribution, and this is just one example of the leadership that you're showing. Thank you very much. Barack Obama. American energy security. Delivered March 30, 2011, Georgetown University, Washington, D. C. It is wonderful to be back at Georgetown. We've got a number of acknowledgements. First of all, I just want to thank President DeGioia for his outstanding leadership here. But also for his hospitality. We also have here Secretary Stephen Chu, my energy secretary. Where is Stephen? There he is over there. Secretary Ken Salazar of the Interior Department. Secretary Tom Vilsack, our Agriculture Secretary. Ray LaHood, our Transportation Secretary. Lisa Jackson, our EPA Administrator. Nancy Sudley. Who is our Council on Environmental Quality Director, right here. A couple of great members of Congress, Congressman Jay Inslee of Washington. Where's Jay? There he is over there. And Rush Holt of New Jersey is here. We've got he didn't. Bring the weather with him, but the mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, is in the house. Mayor Scott Smith of Mesa, Arizona, is here. And most importantly, the students of Georgetown University are in the house. I want to start with a difficult subject. The Hoyas had a tough loss, coach. Coach is here, too, and I love Coach Thompson. I love his dad and the great tradition that they've had. And it turned out VCU was pretty good. I had Georgetown winning that game in my bracket, so we're all hurting here. But that's what next year is for. We meet here at a tumultuous time for the world. In a matter of months, we've seen regimes toppled. We've seen democracy take root in North Africa and in the Middle East. We've witnessed a terrible earthquake. A catastrophic tsunami, a nuclear emergency that has battered. One of our strongest allies and closest friends in the world's third largest economy. We've led an international effort in Libya to prevent a massacre and maintain stability throughout the broader region. And as Americans, we're heartbroken by the lives that have been lost as a result of these events. We're deeply moved by the thirst for freedom in so many nations. And we're moved by the strength and the perseverance of the Japanese people. And it's natural, I think, to feel anxious about what all of this means for us. And one big area of concern has been the cost and security of our energy. Obviously, the situation in the Middle East implicates our energy security. The situation in Japan leads us to ask questions about our energy sources. In an economy that relies so heavily on oil, rising prices at the pump affect everybody: workers, farmers, truck drivers, restaurant owners, students who are lucky enough to have a car. Businesses see rising prices at the pump hurt their bottom line. Families feel the pinch when they fill up their tank. And for Americans that are already struggling to get by. A hike in gas prices really makes their lives that much harder. It hurts.